Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in white, and we are learning to calculate the x or z in an inverse normal distribution question. To go over this, we've got two examples. The first one with solving an x inverse normal distribution question. So we've got our normal distribution graph, and we would have populated it from information from the question. In our case, if the mean is 50 and the standard deviation is 7.5, how many people would be in the top 10% of that graph? What makes this an inverse question is we are given the probability and we've been asked to calculate the x value along the x-axis. For this question, we are going to use the inverse function on our graphics calculators, and we can find that by going to distributions, normal, and then inverse. Once we've got into that section of our calculator, we need to know we have four inputs we need to put into our thing. What is the tail of our graph? So we can see here we're dealing with the right hand side of our graph, so that's a right tail. We've asked to input the area. The area relates to the probability of the sector we're looking at, and that's 0.1. The standard deviation, that's given to us, 7.5, and the mean, that is equal to 50. Once we've done that, we push execute, and our x value will be calculated and pop up on our screens. And in our case, x invert is equal to 59.6, and I've rounded that to 1 dp. So what that means is 59, if you are 59.6 or higher, you will be in this top 10%. We're now going to look at another question, and I'm going to do this. So that was to do with x. This skill is also very, very handy when we're calculating the mean or standard deviation. We will be able to use the inverse function to find the z value of a specific graph. And those specific graphs is a standard normal distribution curve. So a standard normal distribution curve. So if we assume the mean is equal to 0, if we assume the standard deviation is equal to 1, we can find the z value, or how many standard deviations away from 0 that group of data is that we're interested in, that bottom 25%. So on our calculator, we're going to need to input the tail. We can see that tail is on the left-hand side. So we're going to put left. We can see the area is 0.25. We can see the standard deviation, that is 1. So we've assumed that to be 1 for our graph. And the mean, we've assumed that to be 0. If you put that into your calculator, the x inverse value is going to be equal to negative 0.6745. And I've rounded that to 4 dp. And that means the z value is equal to 0.6745. And that skill is very useful for the mean and standard deviation questions, which will be covered in the next video. Hopefully that's helpful. Stay tuned for the mean and standard deviation questions.